So Chris, lots of people in Singapore, and I'm sure around the world and in the US, asking the same two questions. What are the polls telling you right now? And why should we believe them this time more so than we did in 2016?
Well, as you know, painfully, I was sitting with Hillary Clinton as someone who worked with her for 10 years a couple of days before the election, and we thought the polls were going to be very accurate. I think there are a lot of differences between 2016 and 2020. We don't have, a situation with 12% undecided. We really have only about 4% undecided. We really undercounted non-college voters the last time. A lot of pollsters have made up for that. We had a very robust national polling in 2016, but not a great statewide polling. We had a lot of schlocky polls back then. This time around in 2020, we have a lot of, I think, high quality polls. As you know, I'm involved with Change Research, which is an online pollster, which has been quite accurate. And we do a poll with CNBC every 2 weeks. We've done it since March. In the beginning, we saw numbers where Trump was consistently ahead of Biden in 4 of the 6 battleground states. But around midway, in about May with COVID, and then with the George Floyd situation, they really turned against Trump. And we've seen a widening of the polls. Our poll that comes out probably at the time this is being released will move Biden from 8 points 2 weeks ago to 10 points. So he's expanded his numbers nationally. But of course, as everybody knows, it's the Electoral College that counts. We do 6 battleground states. They've all stayed pretty consistent. I would say my level of confidence as a Democrat would be, Wisconsin, Michigan, pretty solid, being solid for months. Arizona, I would used to put in about 3rd place, but they've gotten a little bit closer in the last couple of days. I think Florida is close. Pennsylvania, we have Trump actually. We have Biden actually increasing his numbers from 2 weeks ago. I feel pretty good about Pennsylvania. And the state that is really tough, I think, has always been North Carolina. It's always been a 2-point race since we started, and it's very interesting to watch. The other thing I would say, Steve, I've looked, aside from our CNBC poll, we've done a series of polls for state and local officials. And as we look at down ballot candidates, where for the heck of it, we're asking, are you for Biden or Trump? State Senate candidates, House candidates in Kansas and Oklahoma. And those numbers are much closer than they were 4 years ago, like remarkably closer, which says something. I'm looking at a Montana poll just now statewide. We have it at, bear with me 1 second. We have it at 50 Trump, 45 Biden. That's Montana. I haven't looked back at the numbers, but I'll bet you Hillary lost that by 12 or 13. So we're seeing something happening across the country. The turnout, none of us can really predict what this means. I think that it means a lot of people are turning out against Trump. Myself, we're seeing a lot of younger voters coming out. We've seen senior voters really moving in a different direction than 4 years ago toward Biden, not by huge margins, but significant margins. College suburbanites. If you look at the turnout, I think it's very interesting to look at these suburban cities, particularly in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas. These are big suburban cities where people are turning out, which 2018 taught us they're not turning out to support Trump. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Sorry for my long answer.
And so if there's a reason, if going into election night, if Michigan, Wisconsin are locked up, Pennsylvania is one of those states that they don't even start counting ballots until election day. So what does this mean for when we'll know who the winner is going to be?
I personally think we're going to get indications early. I mean, I think that Florida will be tight, but if you start there are indicators, the Villages, where it's really a predominantly Republican area where, if Trump is getting 69 to 70% in the Villages, then he's going to repeat his Florida win from 4 years ago. But even if he's in the 63 to 65 range, that's going to send a message that it's a tighter race in Florida. And you're going to be able to see that in Florida. I think there are lots of similarities between Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. Frankly, Georgia came out of nowhere. Political friends that you and I have in Georgia shockingly have said that they think we're going to win Georgia by 2. We've done a lot of polling with Stacey Abrams' Georgia Rural Project, Voter Project rather, not they have urban areas too, and they're very organized, and we've seen some really good numbers coming out of Georgia. So I think you're going to see indicators in those early states, and as I was going through earlier, some of these congressional districts, down ballot congressional districts, they may not win, but if the Democrat is coming closer to the Republican in an Indiana or a Kentucky and some of these early states, I think we'll have indications of where we're going.
And so heading into the race, if Biden's up 10, you think it's pretty safe to say right now that from a popular vote perspective, this will be the biggest landslide since Ronald Reagan over Carter, if not bigger?
I think so. Again, you hate to go with your gut, but I feel like there's an intensity in the vote. We all worry about do you win the popular vote but lose the electoral college? I think everybody feels like once you start getting over winning by 4%, Hillary won by 2.2 percentage wise in the popular vote. Once you start getting to 4, it's hard to see how this does not have an impact electorally across the entire country.
So to close, so your insider tip for us tomorrow morning is tomorrow morning Singapore time, tomorrow night Washington time when the polls close. Watch some of the key suburbs, especially Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and watch down ballot races where Republicans, even if they win, they don't win by much. And if those two things happen, you think it'll be a good night for the Democrats?
Yeah, I do. I also think that it's interesting. A lot of people have talked about low turnout among Black and Latino voters. We have consistently found in our polling that they're very suspicious of vote by mail. And there's a tradition in the Black community where they're going to the polls that day and they want to vote in person because they've been screwed in the past by not, by sending in a vote by mail. So I think something I'm going to be watching is what is the turnout in, Philadelphia and Atlanta and Detroit and Milwaukee. I think that will be very interesting, and in parts of Texas.
Well, and tonight your time, President Obama was in Miami, getting out the vote there too. So that's.
Again, you and I have old friends from the White House days who are very political. I have a friend, I don't want to mention his name, but he has his own model. He's a very respectable guy. He thinks that Biden will win Florida, but by 55,000 votes. I mean, if you look at all the voting since 1992, I think the statistic is 70 or 80 million people have voted, but or more probably. But there's only been a 20,000 vote difference in the two presidential candidates in all those years. So it's going to be very, very tight. But again, I think we're going to see, we may not know the winner officially, but I think we're going to see some indications of what's happening.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. And
I have my wine ready for tomorrow night. I'm starting early.
And we'll be back in touch to get your updates.
Good. Thank you, Steve.